A longtime library stalwart has left her job in town, but she's hardly leaving for a sedentary retirement. Rather, she's chasing a hobby she's long loved and now hopes she has more time and energy to pursue. Children and families in town may soon have more to do in the summers as the town eyes comprehensive renovations to its playgrounds. And, beyond all that, the community as a whole may soon benefit from long-awaited repairs to its Centennial Beach. Those stories and more on this episode of Hudson Spotlight. Good evening, everybody. Hello and welcome to HUD-TV. I'm Dakota Antelman, and this is the 7th episode of our new news magazine show, Hudson Spotlight. This is a program where we pick a select few stories each episode from town and race around this community to tell them. On today's broadcast, we're bringing you a look at retiring town librarian Debbie Blackman and her unique hobby. Before that, though, we take a two-part look at twin projects currently being undertaken by the town recreation department. That's a whole lot to get to, and we don't want to waste any time, so we will go now to the Hudson Library, where retiring director Debbie Blackman is looking forward to devoting more time to a hobby that has increasingly fascinated her as her career has proceeded. Take a look. Hudson Library Director Debbie Blackman has a bumper sticker from a colleague joking about retirement sitting proudly on her desk. But in conversation, she says she is generally ambivalent about the word when it's used to describe her upcoming departure from the Hudson Library. After decades in library service, she is technically retiring, but says she will hardly be sitting at home when she does. Rather, once she leaves Hudson next month, she will be diving further into a passion of hers that she first discovered at her first library job in Wyoming 20 years ago.
At the library, they had a genealogy room that was run by the library, the Historical Society, and the Mormon Church, the Latter-day Saints. And that's where I was a reference librarian out there, and I started doing genealogy and found that I have a passion for it.
Decades in, Blackman does credit her library career for not only sparking, but further deepening her genealogy interest.
I like history, and I figured why not myself, my own history. So yeah, I think being a reference librarian and liking to research has enhanced the passion for genealogy.
Over the years, Blackman has racked up her share of stories through and as a result of her research. Most notably, these include a Thanksgiving trek to Long Island in search of long-lost relatives after some digging through old documents.
My father-in-law, his dad died when he was 3 in Long Island, and his mom took him back to upstate New York, so he didn't realize he had any relatives around. And doing genealogy, I found that he had 3 third cousins down in Long Island, and we ended up contacting each other. They ended up inviting us down for Thanksgiving. So 23 of us drove to Long Island for Thanksgiving. And it was a really good time. And my father-in-law got to see where his dad was buried, because he'd never seen where his dad was buried and his grandparents were buried. So that was kind of rewarding, because it really touched him. So. Going
forward, Blackman wants to continue her work specifically by studying a distant relative who, while living in Boston, sponsored a large group of Irish immigrants during the second wave of Irish migration to the U.S. in the later 1800s and early 1900s. Beyond that, she's excited to dig deeper into even older aspects of her family history, simply continuing the passion she gleaned from her career helping others learn about their world and their history through libraries.
I found out what town we're from in Ireland, and my husband's from his father's parents were from Sweden. So I'd like to go over and research different places and see the different towns and stuff like that. So that's probably what I'm going to do a lot after genealogy, after I retire.
Debbie Blackman, a fixture for many years in the Hudson Library, will indeed be moving on, but amazing nonetheless to hear what her future has in store for her. Switching topics now, though, we're going to begin racing around town for a story on something omnipresent in this area, and that thing is playgrounds. Take a look. Few residents may be using Hudson's now snow-covered playgrounds, but as the winter has dragged on, those very attractions have been at the forefront of the Hudson Recreation Department's work as they initiate comprehensive renovations on the countless aging structures across town. Their goal? simply make the playground safe and compelling for the children and families of Hudson for years to come.
Ultimately, the lifespan of a playground, if you look or speak to a designer, an installer, you're looking at anywhere from 20 to maybe 30 years. Many of the playgrounds located in town currently, at the schools and some of our town playgrounds, Riverside Park, Wood Park, are 20 plus years old. So they are nearing or have reached the end of their useful life.
Much of the work so far stems from a study that the department recently commissioned to identify issues with existing playground infrastructure. That has meant that so far, for the most part, this work has involved removing structure elements to bring the parks to a safe baseline.
A lot of what we've done to date has been removing what has been classified or prioritized as a significant hazard. We plan on going into the spring of 2018 to continue to remove some other items, but we hope to also install some playground equipment this coming spring as well.
Specifically, solving these problems identified in that study has forced the department to focus on a lack of wood chip safety surfacing at some playgrounds, as well as problems with slides cracking or otherwise failing to tightly connect to structures at others.
But we don't want gaps in there where a string on someone's hoodie could get caught in and potentially create an entanglement hazard. So those are the plastic materials or areas that we always look towards.
Finally, the department has had to focus also on repairing or removing decaying metal built into structures.
These exposed corners of platforms have rusted so bad that there's actually shards of rusted metal that can be pulled apart. And again, it's not safe, not advisable for people to use, and it's something that we need to address right away.
All in all, the department is excited about the future of the town's playgrounds. And though their work now may be taking elements away from the attractions, they hope that by the time they are done with this project, they will have made the playground safer and been able to add back to them in a way that will not only make them exciting for children, but lasting for the community.
So it's kind of a combination. Yes, we want a large, new, improved, not necessarily flashy, but very usable, very community-focused and centered playground in town. I think there's a lot of people in the community that want it, and we internally want to see that as well. However, we need to continually make smaller updates to the playgrounds that remain in town so that they don't continue to fail and that we get as much life out of them as possible.
The many playgrounds of Hudson may be drawing the rec department's attention now, but on a longer timeline, the renovations of one singular rec department property stand alone as the department's primary project. You see, one needs that longer timeline to justly see the scale of this project. It's been going on for years. But simultaneously, they and the town are lucky to also see that timeline running out as the department nears completion on long-awaited work on the Centennial Beach property. Take a look. Aerial photographs of Hudson's Centennial Beach show a deep chasm eroded into the sand near the center of the property. Behind that blemish lie tree canopies that have thinned in recent years due to that erosion. And under all of that is a half-century-old bathhouse in desperate need of repair. The Hudson Recreation Department has known about these problems for years, but, up until recently, lacked the money to solve them. Now, though, that's changed as the department has finally secured funding and now started down a path to revamp the beach over the next 18 months.
The ball has been rolling. I said this at a public meeting when we met and we had our design firm, Weston and Sampson, in place. When I met with them and the residents that were here, I said, the ball has been rolling, but at this point, the ball is now rolling much faster, and we have a pretty aggressive timeline to complete the project as well.
Key, especially in this new phase of the project, has been the department's gathering of feedback from residents about the beach. Through multiple channels, they've heard requests for everything from Wi-Fi capabilities at the facility to a concession stand built next to a renovated bathhouse. And now, consulting with a design firm, department officials have taken those suggestions to heart.
To date, we know that the facility still needs to be updated. I think one of the residents who has come to a recent public meeting we had, specific to the facility and the project we're looking to complete, said, we just want, and I'm assuming meant residents just want the facility to not be gross. The building that's there was built 50 plus years ago. We have done some improvements over the last 20 years, but nothing substantial. So, excuse me, the beach project itself has evolved over the last couple of years.
Community feedback, however, is no new thing in the issue of Centennial Beach, and in many cases in the past, the department has had to hear feedback that they could not necessarily act on.
People want new sand. We kept hearing that, hey, we want new sand. We have replaced sand in the last 12 years. We've put sand on the beach twice. However, due to the erosion and drainage issues that we currently are experiencing, the sand that we've put on the beach, some of it has washed away into the reservoir or into the lake, and without fixing those issues, it never made sense to spend taxpayer money on adding new sand just for it to be, again, washed away into the reservoir potentially, which could impact the spillway, which is the channel between us and Marlborough, and it's right around the corner from our beach. So we've been very cognizant of that as well. We don't want to impact the health of the reservoir.
Now that the beach project is coming together, that so-called grossness factor, possibly prolonged by an inability to replace sand and other items, is one Steve Santos hopes will give way to a welcoming factor that helps the community feel more comfortable using the beach in more ways than previously possible.
I think it's a project in a sense that the community as a whole can really benefit from it. You don't need to be an active user of the beach, although you will benefit from it. You don't even need to be someone who likes to go swimming. There are other benefits to that area. It's a great place to go to in the fall. It's a great place to go to in the spring. It's not just a facility that people, in my opinion, should be visiting during the 11 weeks over the summer when we're open, when we have lifeguards on duty. And as part of the plan, we're looking to expand, create some off-season parking so that people have an opportunity to safely get into the facility, access it, use it.
After years spent living solely on paper, this project finally has the money to become a reality. For that to happen, though, officials are fast-tracking it on a timeline that foresees construction beginning this fall and ending in time for the summer 2020 season. Till then, though, the beach lingers under snow, waiting for whatever year-round usage its future may hold. So all eyes on that beach as the snow soon melts and the town gets to work on that project that they now finally have the money for. Of course, we at HUD-TV will be keeping you posted on that project and others like it as it proceeds and as the months continue to drag on. But for now, though, that puts a wrap on this episode of Hudson Spotlight. For all of us here at HUD-TV, I'm Dakota Antelman. Thanks for watching.